Hello, good morning students. I am starting with the cartoons of alternative centers of power. Okay. So our first cartoon. This cartoon shows the attempt of European Union to frame or to formulate a constitution, a common constitution. There were attempts to consolidate constitution for the European Union. It is the picture of Titanic, the cartoon representation of Titanic. So as icebergs caused to sink the Titanic, the largest passenger ship of the time, the member states could fail the attempts of formulating a common constitution for European Union. Okay. So all the member states, they were not in support of formulating a constitution for the European Union. So these member states could easily fail the attempt of European Union to frame this constitution. So the next cartoon, who is this person? Manmohan Singh. Okay. So it represents India's Look East policy. And this policy started since 1991 to interact with ASEAN, China, Japan and South Korea and Act East policy after 2014. So, Look East policy started after 1991 to interact with ASEAN, China, Japan and South Korea. And it says that there is competition among various countries to develop potential relations with ASEAN, and it denotes India's strategy towards ASEAN through free trade area, FTAs. So it denotes India's strategy towards ASEAN through FTAs. Then Look East policy, it is an effort to cultivate extensive economic and strategic relations with the nations of Southeast Asia in order to solidify its standing as a regional power. You already studied about this. So what is Look East policy? It is an effort to cultivate extensive economic and strategic relations. So we already studied that. India began to change its policies. Okay. So relations with the nations of Southeast Asia to solidify, to strengthen its standing as a regional power. Then 2014, after 2014, the Act East policy was started. So it was an effort for economic and security integration, and focused area increased to Southeast Asia plus East Asia. Okay. So Act East policy after 2014, it is an effort for economic and security integration, and focused area increased under this policy to Southeast Asia plus East Asia. Then there is the Great Wall of China and Dragon. So it shows China as an emerging power, economic power, and this dragon and the Great Wall are the symbols of China. So there is one little man, and this is the representation of India. It is represented as in future India can obstruct the growth of China through its manpower and resources. In future, India can obstruct its growth, China's growth, okay, through our manpower and resources. Then here the policy changes of China is represented, changes in China's economic policies. So communist economic policies in Mao Zedong's time, at that time there was no private property and extreme control of the state was there. So later there were ties between China and capitalist economies of the world during Hu Jintao's time. So there you can write about the open door policy and foreign direct investment. Okay. Then last cartoon, the dual policy. One bicycle is given. So the dual policy of China is shown. The first wheel represents the communist ideology and the second wheel represents capitalist ideology. Okay, China invites and allows American dollars. Okay, through this FDI. So the dual policy of China is shown. The first wheel represents the communist ideology and the second wheel represents capitalist ideology. Okay, China invites and allows American dollars. On the second wheel there is the symbol of dollar. Okay. Then this one, changes in China's economic policies, communist economic policies, especially during Mao Zedong's time. No private property and extreme control of the state. Later, during Hu Jintao's time, policies were changed, open door policy and foreign direct investment started. Then again this one, so shows China's strength or its emergence as an economic power. So dragon and the Great Wall are the symbols of China, little man representation of India. Then through this it is narrated as, in future India can obstruct the growth of China through its manpower and resources. Then important one, this one that Manmohan Singh's, so represents India's look-east policy since 1991 to interact with ASEAN, China, Japan, South Korea, etc. The next policy, Act East policy after 2014. So it says that there is competition among various countries to develop potential relations with ASEAN. So it denotes India's strategy towards ASEAN through FTAs. Then look-east policy, an effort to cultivate extensive economic and strategic relations with the nations of Southeast Asia to strengthen its standing as a regional power. Then Act East policy 2014, an effort for economic and security integration. Here the area of focus was widened to Southeast Asia and East Asia. Then that failure of the attempts to consolidate a constitution. So it is compared with the ship Titanic, the passenger ship Titanic. Then the member states could fail the attempts of formulating a common constitution for EU. So with these cartoons, this chapter over. So now I am moving to our new lesson, India's external relations. India's external relations. Okay. So as an introduction, we can start with the challenges faced by India at the time of independence. So you already studied about the challenges of unity, democracy, establishing democracy and development faced by India at the time of independence. So we covered these three challenges in the first three chapters. So now we have to study the external challenges. The external challenges faced by India after independence. The external challenges. So there were external challenges after independence, but the Indian leaders could face or could overcome these challenges through the policy of non-alignment. So there were many external challenges after Indian independence, but through the policy of non-alignment, Indian leaders could overcome this challenge to some extent. And during this period or after independence, there were several wars with our neighbors. In 1962, 65 and 71, the three main conflicts occurred in India after our independence. So these wars and external relations had their impact on the politics of our country. So that will be discussed in this chapter. These three wars and the external relations had their impact on the politics of our country. So what was the international context? What was the international context in which India entered into the foreign policies or foreign relations? Okay. So you already studied about the Second World War and its effects on the world countries. So it was a period of reconstruction. So for most of the countries, it was a period of reconstruction, the period after the Second World War. Economic reconstruction was essential for most of the countries. And there was an attempt to establish international body. Okay, you are aware of the establishment or setting up of UN in 1945. So there was an attempt to establish international body. Then it was a period of collapse of colonialism. Collapse of colonialism, and it was a period of the emergence of many new nations. And most of these newly emerged countries had faced many challenges of democracy, establishing democracy and welfare. So, the international context in which India entered into the foreign relations or in its foreign policies. So, in the background or in the backdrop of the Second World War, there were the issues of reconstruction and attempt to establish international body, then collapse of colonialism, and as a result of this collapse of colonialism, many new nations emerged, and in most of these nations there were the challenges of welfare and democracy. So, when India formulated its foreign policy, it reflected all these concerns. Okay. And besides these problems, when the British left India, they left several international disputes in our country. And the independence of our country led to one most important event, that is the partition of our country, partition of India into two, India and Pakistan. So there were partition related issues. So immediately after independence, there were the issues of partition. Okay. So when the British left India, they left some international disputes, for example, the partition related issues. And it was a time of India's attempts to remove poverty. So in this context, India participated in world affairs. So, directive principles of state policy. To overcome all these, India formulated the directive principles of state policy. These are the guidelines given to the federal institutes to be kept in citation while framing laws and policies. So, while framing laws and policies, all the federal institutes have to follow several guidelines. Okay. And Article 51 stress the promotion of international peace and security. So these directive last year you studied about this. So these directive principles of state policy are included in part 4 of our constitution and listed from Article 36 to 51. And in this Article 51 stresses promotion of international peace and security. Okay. So always the foreign policy of a nation is based on its internal and external environment. So when we formulate the foreign policy of a nation, we are considering the internal and external factors. Okay. So the developing countries, for example, in the case of developing countries, they are giving much importance to peace and development in their neighborhood, because these countries lack resources to advocate their concerns. So they are giving much importance to peace and development in their neighborhood. Okay. So the foreign policy is always influenced by the powerful states on which these developing countries are dependent. If India is depending on some other powerful nations, naturally we have to frame our foreign policy in support of or in favor of that country's foreign policy. So in the case of when foreign policies are formulated or framed, especially in the case of developing countries, if they are dependent on some other powerful states or powerful countries, their foreign policy would definitely influenced by the foreign policy of the powerful states. Okay. And usually the developing countries frame their foreign policies, and they are giving importance to the peace and development in their neighborhood. Why? Because these countries lack resources to advocate their concerns. So after the Second World War, many developing nations gave preferences to the foreign policies of nations who gave them aid. I already told, if the developing countries are dependent on powerful states, definitely there will be the foreign policy of that country will be affected by the powerful state. So after the Second World War, many developing nations gave preference to the foreign policies of nations who gave them aid. Okay. Then you already studied about the two camps during the Cold War under the US and USSR. Okay. Then again there was the non-aligned movement. The countries, several countries didn't join these two camps. Okay. And they formed another movement called non-aligned movement. So after the Second World War, many developing nations gave preferences to the foreign policies of nations who gave them aid. Then there were two camps during the Cold War under the leadership of the US and the USSR, then the non-aligned movement. So when India became independent or started our foreign policy, the world was getting divided into two groups. Okay, so immediately after the Second World War, the Cold War started. Cold War means the beginning of these two camps, two military camps, NATO and Warsaw Pact. So it was during this time our country got independence. Okay, So when India got independence or when we started our foreign policy, the world was divided into two groups, okay, as a result of the Cold War. Then what was the policy of India? During this time, what was the policy of India? So the policy of non-alignment. You already studied about non-alignment. So the Indian national movement was not confined to India alone. Its influence was there in other nations, in Asian and African countries, and it could influence the liberation movements in some other countries, mainly Asian and African countries. So before independence, Indian leaders had contacts with the leaders of other nations. And example, that Subhash Chandra Bose, he formed this INA in another country. We can say INA's formation as an example here. So the policy of non-alignment was followed by India after independence, and they never joined the NATO or the Warsaw Pact. And this India could influence, or Indian national movement could influence the liberation movements or the freedom movements of many Asian and African countries. And even before independence, our leaders had contacts with the leaders of other nations. So even INA was framed in other country under the leadership of Subhash Chandra Bose. So after the Second World War, when we got independence, it was a period of Cold War. Then again there was a division of two opposite blocs under the US and USSR. Then during this time the UN was established in 1945. Then creation of nuclear weapons occurred during this period. Then emergence of communist China in 1949. Then beginning of decolonization. In the introduction we told, then within this international context, India had to pursue its foreign policy, that non-alignment policy. So when we got independence, it was a period at the global level, it was a period of Cold War. That means there was the division of world into two opposite blocs under the US and the USSR. Then in 1945 UN was established. Then countries, as a part of this Cold War or the grouping of military blocs into two, the countries began to develop nuclear weapons. Then emergence of communist China, another powerful country in 1949. At that time China was not so powerful. Then beginning of decolonization and emergence of many new countries. So within this international context, India had to pursue its foreign policy. Then what was Nehru's role in framing India's foreign policy? So you all know that Nehru was the first Prime Minister of India and also the Foreign Minister. So it became easy to frame the foreign policy under the leadership of Nehru. So the foreign policy from the time of 1946 to 1964 was framed by our Prime Minister and Foreign Minister Pandit Jawaharlal Nehru. So what were the objectives of India's foreign policy? To preserve the sovereignty, then protect territorial integrity and rapid economic development. So what were the objectives of India's foreign policy framed by Nehru in the period between 1946 and 64? To preserve the sovereignty, protect territorial integrity and promote rapid economic development. So he could achieve these objectives through the foreign policy called non-alignment. So we studied 3 objectives of our foreign policy. Then Nehru could achieve these, or India could achieve these objectives through the non-alignment policy. So there were different opinions regarding the foreign policy of India. So Nehru wanted to follow a non-alignment policy. He was not interested to join either the power blocks or military blocks. But according to some leaders and political parties, India would be more friendly with the bloc led by US. So some leaders wanted to join the side of, or more friendly towards the US bloc. Like leaders like Ambedkar was in support of that. According to these leaders, this bloc claimed to be pro-democracy. That means this bloc gave much importance to the democratic ideals. On the opposite side, there was the communist USSR. So naturally, these leaders and several political parties of India claimed that the military bloc under the leadership of US is more pro-democratic. So they wanted to join the side of US. And several other political parties like Bharatiya Janasangh and Swatantra Party, these parties actually they were opposed to Communist Party, and they wanted to follow pro-US foreign policy. Why? Because they were the strong enemies of communism. So these parties also wanted to join the side of US. Okay, so Nehru in his foreign policy, he followed the non-alignment policy, but there were different views among the leaders and different political parties regarding the foreign policy of India. Several leaders and political parties wanted to join the side of US because it is more pro-democratic side, and some other parties, they were strong enemies of communism, like the parties Bharatiya Janasangh and Swatantra Party. They wanted to follow pro-US foreign policy. Reason, they were the enemies of communist parties. Okay. So distance from 2 camps. So India began this non-alignment policy, reducing and they followed this policy by reducing the Cold War tensions and contributing human resources to the UN peacekeeping operations. So we followed in the initial stages of our foreign policy, India followed the policy of non-alignment by reducing Cold War tensions and contributing human resources to the UN peacekeeping forces. So there were many challenges within the country. There were many challenges of unity, democracy and development. Besides these 3 challenges, there were several external challenges at the time of independence. So the Indian leaders could overcome these challenges through the policy of non-alignment. To some extent, they could overcome this. Then there were 3 conflicts in 1962, 65 and 71, and these wars and external relations had their impact on the politics of our country. So international context. So it was the period of Second World War. Immediately after the Second World War, we got independence. So there were, at the global level, there were the issues of reconstruction and attempt to establish international body, then collapse of colonialism and rise of new nations. And most of these nations had the challenges of welfare and democracy. So, the British left several international disputes, mainly the partition-related issues. India entered into the world affairs during this period. So, in the beginning, when we started our foreign policy, we decided to respect the sovereignty of all neighboring nations, sovereignty of all. Then achieve security through the maintenance of peace. Then for this, India laid down the directive principles of state policy, which was included in Article 51. So, when we started our foreign policy, we decided to respect the sovereignty of all nations, achieve security through the maintenance of peace, and India laid down directive principles of state policy in Article 51. These are the guidelines given to the federal institutes to be kept in citation while framing laws and policies. So, while framing laws and policies, the federal institutes have to follow these guidelines. So, 15 directive principles are there. These are included in Part 4, listed from Article 36 to 51. Then Article 51 stresses the promotion of international peace and security. So, the foreign policy of a nation is always based on internal and external environment. So, the developing countries, for example, the developing countries give much importance to peace and development in their neighborhood. The foreign policy, the foreign policy of developing nations is always influenced by the powerful states on which they are dependent. So, when after the Second World War, many developing nations gave preference to the foreign policies of nations who gave them aid. Then two camps, Warsaw Pact and NATO. Then non-aligned movement. Then when India became independent or started our foreign policy, what was the situation in the world? The world was divided into two groups as a result of the Cold War. Then policy of India, in one word, non-alignment. Okay. So, after the Second World War, there was the division of world into two opposite blocks. Then it was the time of establishing UN, then creation of nuclear weapons as a part of this grouping of countries, then emergence of communist China, beginning of decolonization. So, during this context, we started our foreign policy. Then Nehru's role, he was the Prime Minister and the Foreign Minister. So, he could frame the foreign policy of country from the period of 1946 to 64, and objectives to preserve the sovereignty, protect the territorial integrity, and promote rapid economic development of the country. So, Nehru, to achieve these objectives through the non-alignment, Nehru followed the policy of non-alignment, but there were different opinions regarding the foreign policy of India. Several leaders and political parties, they wanted to join the side of US or to follow more friendly relations towards US because more pro-democratic side, and some other political parties which were strong enemies of Communist Party like Bharatiya Janasangh and Swatantra Party, they wanted to follow pro-US foreign policy only because they were the enemies of communism. Actually, Nehru, even though he was a Congress leader, he was interested in socialist ideologies. Okay. So, sometimes in our foreign policy, we can see a slanting of India towards the USSR during that time. So distance from the two camps. So India followed the policy of non-alignment. How? By reducing the Cold War tensions and contributing human resources to the UN peacekeeping forces. So sometimes, I already told, sometimes India followed a policy which was in support of the USSR, or in our foreign policy. Actually, we told that we studied that India followed a policy of non-alignment, but still sometimes there was in our foreign policy we were in support of the communist country USSR. And two examples are given here. In 1956, when Britain attacked Egypt over the issue of Suez Canal, India led the world protests, against this neo-colonial invasion. So India strongly opposed the British attack of Egypt in 1956. So Britain was the part of NATO. You already studied about that. But in the same year, USSR invaded Hungary, but India didn't condemn this. So here we can see India's slanting towards the USSR. So in the same year, when in 1956, when Britain attacked Egypt on the Suez Canal issue, India led the world protest against this neo-colonial invasion. And in the same year, when USSR invaded Hungary, India didn't condemn this. But still, we can say that India followed a policy of non-alignment. So India took independent stand on international issues, got aid and resistance from members of both the blocs. In the first chapter, we studied that when we needed help from the US side, we got it, we easily got it. Because we were neutral. We followed the policy of non-alignment. We were not part of these two sides, NATO or Warsaw Pact. So whenever we needed help from these two sides, we easily got it. So India took independent stand on international issues. We got aid and resistance from members of both the blocs. Clear?